So, you're thinking about moving to Vancouver, Washington. Maybe you've heard about the affordable home prices compared to Portland, or you love the idea of no state income tax, but you're still wondering, can I actually afford to live there? If that's you, you're in the right place. Hi friends, it's Jasmine, your local Vancouver, Washington realtor extraordinaire, and today we're diving into the real cost of living in 2025. Whether you're considering buying a home, renting, or relocating from out of state, I'm going to break down exactly what it costs to live here, from home prices and rent to utilities, groceries, transportation, and even the hidden costs no one talks about. And listen, I totally get it. Moving anywhere is a huge financial decision. Vancouver has been growing fast, and while it's still one of the more affordable cities on the West Coast, it's definitely changed over the years. Prices are rising, the real estate market is competitive, and some costs may surprise you. But compared to places like Portland, Seattle, or even California, Vancouver still has some major perks that might make it the right move for you. So in this video, we'll go over housing costs, if you're renting or buying, what's the market like in 2025, utilities and monthly expenses, what's the real cost of electricity, water, and internet here, groceries and food prices, are groceries more expensive than Portland, transportation and commuting costs, including gas prices and whether you can save by living here instead of Oregon. The hidden costs people don't think about, taxes, insurance, and other factors that affect your budget. By the end, you'll have real numbers to decide if Vancouver fits your lifestyle and budget. And make sure you stick around until the end because I'll also compare Vancouver versus Portland so you can see which city is the better deal. Before we jump into the video, hit that subscribe button for more Vancouver, Washington real estate content. And if you're seriously considering making the move, check out the link in my description to schedule a free consultation with me. I'd love to help you find the perfect home and make relocation as stress-free as possible. All right, let's start with the biggest cost of living in Vancouver, housing. If you're looking to buy a home or rent, this market has been on the rise for years, and 2025 is no exception. But how much does it actually cost to live here? And is Vancouver still affordable compared to other cities? We're gonna break it all down. First, let's talk about home prices. As of early 2025, the median home price in Vancouver is sitting at $559,900, which is up 5.7% compared to last year. While home values are still increasing, it's at a much more manageable pace compared to the rapid growth we saw in 2021 and 2022. If we compare Vancouver to other nearby cities, it's easy to see why so many people are moving here. The median home price in Portland, Oregon is now hovering around $560,000, meaning Vancouver and Portland are almost identical in price. But here's the key difference. Washington has no state income tax, which can make Vancouver more appealing for homeowners who work in Portland but want to save on taxes. On the other hand, if you compare Vancouver to Seattle, where the median home price is now around $800,000, Vancouver starts to look a lot more attractive for buyers who want to stay in Washington but can't afford the high price tag of the Seattle market. Let's break things down even further now. If you're wondering what home prices look like based on property size, here's what you can expect. A smaller two-bedroom home in Vancouver is currently selling for around $450,000 to $500,000. A three-bedroom home, which is the most common size for buyers, typically falls between $525,000 and $600,000 depending on the neighborhood. Larger homes, like 4 and 5 bedroom properties, can range anywhere from $650,000 to well over $900,000, especially in more desirable areas like Philida, Salmon Creek, and Camas. So, is it still possible to find a home in Vancouver under $500,000? Yes. But the competition is fierce. With low inventory and strong demand, the best deals go fast. If you're planning to buy, it's crucial to work with a local expert, get pre-approved early, and be prepared to act quickly when you find the right home. Let's switch gears and talk renting. If you're not quite ready to buy a home yet, Vancouver's rental market is also competitive, but still offers more affordability compared to larger metro areas. Here's what you can expect for rental prices in 2025. A one-bedroom apartment rents for around $1,610 per month, showing a 2% increase from 2024. A two-bedroom apartment will cost you about $1,817 per month, which has stayed relatively stable. If you're looking to rent a townhouse or a single-family home, expect prices anywhere from $2,200 to $3,500 per month, depending on size and location. If you compare this to Portland, Vancouver's rents are still about 5 to 10% cheaper on average. That means while home prices are similar, renters will generally pay less in Vancouver than across the river in Oregon. However, it's important to note that Vancouver's rental market has been getting more competitive. Over the last 5 years, rental prices have gone up about 15%, mainly because more people are moving here from out of state and demand is growing faster than supply. Now, let's talk about an important question. Is it better to rent or buy in Vancouver? If you're planning to stay here for less than 3 years, renting might make more sense because home values are still rising, and selling a home after just a short time might not give you enough appreciation to make a profit. However, if you plan to stay in Vancouver for at least 5 years, buying might actually save you money in the long run, especially with rising rents. For example, let's say you're renting a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,800 per month. That adds up to $21,600 per year in rent. Over 5 years, that's $108,000 spent on rent, with zero return on investment. On the other hand, if you were to buy a $550,000 home with a 5% down payment, your monthly mortgage could be around $3,200, depending on interest rates and property taxes. But here's the key difference. A portion of that down payment is going towards equity, meaning you're building wealth over time instead of just paying rent with no return. So, if you're buying or renting, Vancouver's housing market is competitive, but still more affordable than other West Coast cities. If you're considering making a move here, it's important to plan ahead, explore your options, and work with a real estate expert who knows the market. Since we've covered housing costs, let's talk about another major monthly expense, your monthly utility bills. A lot of people underestimate how much utilities can impact their overall cost of living, so if you're planning to move to Vancouver, it's important to know what to expect. Let's start with electricity. In Vancouver, power is provided by Clark Public Utilities, which has some of the most stable and competitive rates in the state. As of 2025, the residential electricity rate is $8.79 per kilowatt hour. To put that into perspective, the average household in Clark County uses about 1,248 kilowatt hours per month, which brings the typical electricity bill to about $110 per month. That's actually lower than the national average, which is great news if you're coming from a more expensive energy state. However, if you live in a large home, have multiple appliances running, or use electric heating in the winter, your bill can easily climb closer to $150 to $180 per month during peak seasons. Now let's talk about water and sewer costs. In Vancouver, these services are billed together, with water usage making up part of the cost and sewage treatment adding another fee on top of it. On average, a typical household pays around $35 to $40 per month for water and about $55 for sewer services, making the total bill roughly $90 per month. If you have a larger family or a home with a lot of landscaping that requires frequent watering, this cost could be higher. One thing to keep in mind is that Vancouver doesn't have the extreme drought restrictions you might find in places like California, so while water is relatively affordable, conservation is still encouraged to keep these costs in check. If your home uses natural gas for heating, cooking, or hot water, that's another cost to consider. The main provider for natural gas in Vancouver is Northwest Natural, and the average household spends anywhere between $50 and $100 per month on their gas bill, depending on the season. During the colder months, gas heating costs can rise, so if you're moving from a warmer climate, that might be an adjustment. Some newer homes rely completely on electric heating, which can shift some of the costs over to your electricity bill instead. Next, let's talk about internet and cable services, which are becoming just as essential as electricity for most households. Vancouver has several internet providers, but the major ones are Xfinity Comcast, Quantum Fiber, and CenturyLink. Xfinity offers cable internet with speeds up to 2 gigabytes per second, with plans starting at around $30 per month for basic services and climbing to $100 or more for higher speed packages. Quantum Fiber is a great option if you want ultra-fast fiber optic internet with speeds reaching up to 8 gigabytes per second, though plans tend to start around $50 per month. CenturyLink also provides fiber and DSL options, but availability depends on the neighborhood. Overall, most households spend somewhere between $50 and $80 per month on internet, depending on the provider and speed they choose. Trash and recycling services are another necessary monthly expense. In Vancouver, waste collection is typically handled by Waste Connections, and the cost depends on the size of your bin and the frequency of pickups. A standard residential trash and recycling service costs around $50 per month, though if you generate a lot of waste or opt for additional yard debris collection, that price can be slightly higher. Lastly, let's talk about phone services, both landline and mobile. While most people rely on cell phones these days, landline services are still available and typically cost around $40 per month. However, mobile phone bills can be a bit more expensive, especially if you have a family plan with multiple lines. The average Vancouver household spends anywhere from $150 to $250 per month on mobile phone services, depending on their carrier and data usage. When you add everything up, here's what a typical household household in Vancouver can expect to spend on utilities each month. Electricity usually runs around $110 per month. Water and sewer combined are around $90. Natural gas falls somewhere between $50 and $100. Internet services range from $50 to $80. Trash pickup is about $50. And phone bills, including mobile, can be anywhere between $150 to $250. That means in total, most households are looking at $330 to $380 per month in basic utilities, not including any optional services like premium cable or streaming subscriptions. These numbers can shift based on home size, usage habits, and the season, but that gives you a realistic estimate of what to budget for. Vancouver is known for having relatively stable and predictable utility costs compared to some other cities, which is a huge plus for anyone trying to plan ahead financially. We've covered housing and utilities, but let's talk about something just as important: food costs. If you're grocery shopping, meal prepping, or eating out at Vancouver's many great restaurants, food is one of those expenses that can add up quickly if you're not paying attention. But how much can you actually expect to spend on groceries and dining out in 2025? And how does Vancouver compare to other cities? When it comes to grocery shopping, prices have gone up in the last few years due to inflation and supply chain issues, and Vancouver is no exception. Right now, the average cost of a gallon of milk is about $3.95, while a dozen eggs will cost you about $6.67. A loaf of bread typically runs from $4.20, and for those who cook at home, boneless chicken breast is priced at $3.74 per pound. Basic produce items like apples are about $2.57, and potatoes are averaging $1.60 per pound. Overall, grocery costs in Vancouver are about 6% higher than the national average, meaning food is slightly more expensive compared to smaller towns, but still more affordable than major West Coast cities like Seattle or San Francisco. If you're wondering how much you'll spend per month on groceries, it really depends on your lifestyle. The average single adult in Vancouver spends anywhere from $300 to $400 per month, depending on dietary habits and where they shop. A family of four can expect to spend around $800 to $1,000 per month, though that number can go even higher if you prefer organic or specialty products. Shopping at stores like Winco or Costco can help cut costs, while higher-end grocery chains like Whole Foods or New Seasons will push your grocery bill up substantially. One of the biggest advantages of grocery shopping in Portland compared to Vancouver is that Oregon has no sales tax. That means if you're buying non-food essentials like household supplies, toiletries, or cleaning products, you'll save money compared to Washington, where those items are taxed. However, when looking at grocery prices alone, Vancouver and Portland are almost identical, with only minor variations depending on the store. Let's talk about dining out, because let's be real, not everyone has the time or desire to cook every night. If you enjoy eating out, here's what you can expect in terms of restaurant prices in Vancouver. A typical meal at an inexpensive restaurant will cost about $20 per person, while a mid-range restaurant with a 3-course meal for two runs around $82.50. A standard fast food combo meal like a burger, fries, and drink is priced at around $14, and if you're grabbing a coffee, a cappuccino from a local cafe will set you back about $5.14. For those who like to enjoy a drink with dinner, a pint of domestic beer at a bar or restaurant costs about $7. Dining out in Vancouver is about 4% more expensive than in Portland, which might surprise some people since Vancouver tends to be slightly cheaper when it comes to other living expenses. However, restaurant pricing is driven by demand, and with Vancouver growing rapidly, the local food scene has expanded with higher-end dining options, driving costs up slightly. For those who eat out often, food costs can add up fast. If you grab lunch out every weekday, you're looking at $100 per week or $400 per month just for one meal a day. If you're going out for dinner multiple times a week, it's easy to spend over $600 per month on restaurant meals alone. That's why many people in Vancouver balance dining out with cooking at home to save money. If you're looking to cut down on food expenses, there are a few ways to save. Shopping smart is key. Buying in bulk at Costco, using store loyalty programs at Safeway and Fred Meyer's, and planning meals ahead can keep your grocery bill manageable. Meal prepping is another great way to reduce impulse food purchases and cut down on waste. And if you love dining out but want to save money, taking advantage of happy hour deals, lunch specials, and food trucks can stretch your budget further without sacrificing great meals. Overall, food costs in Vancouver are reasonable but steadily rising, and like any city, your experiences will depend on your habits and where you shop. The key is balancing your grocery spending with occasional dining out to stay within budget while still enjoying everything the city has to offer. We've covered covered housing, utilities, and food costs, but let's talk about another major expense: transportation. If you're commuting to work, running errands, or just exploring the area, knowing what to expect when it comes to gas prices, public transit, and commute times is essential. So how much does it actually cost to get around in Vancouver, Washington? Let's find out. For most residents, driving is the primary mode of transportation, and with that comes the cost of gas, insurance, and vehicle maintenance. As of 2025, gas prices in Vancouver are averaging around $4.10 per gallon, which is slightly lower than in Portland, thanks to Washington's lower fuel taxes compared to Oregon. That said, if you frequently commute into Portland, you might notice that fuel prices fluctuate quite a bit depending on which side of the river you're filling up on. Insurance is another key cost to consider. Washington drivers pay an average of $1,200 per year for insurance, though that varies based on your driving history, the type of car you own, and the coverage you choose. Speaking of commutes, how long does it actually take to get around? If you live and work in Vancouver, the average one-way commute is about 26 minutes, which is actually shorter than the national average. But for those commuting into Portland, things get a little trickier. Traffic on the I-5 and I-205 can get congested, especially during rush hour, and travel times can easily double if you're heading into the city during peak hours. If you're working in downtown Portland, expect 30 to 45-minute commutes in the morning and even longer on the way home. Some people choose to adjust their work hours or work remotely a few days a week to avoid the worst of the congestion. Next, let's talk about public transportation. If you'd rather skip the drive, Vancouver has a solid public transit system run by C-Tran, which offers bus services throughout the city and express routes into Portland. One of the best options for commuters is the Vine, which is Vancouver's bus rapid transit system. It operates on dedicated lanes for faster service and connects key areas like downtown Vancouver, the Vancouver Mall, and Portland's transit network. If you take C-Tran's express bus service into Portland, you can get to downtown in about 30 to 40 minutes depending on traffic. So how much does public transit cost? A single ride on C-Tran is about $2.50, and if you commute daily, you might want to grab a monthly pass for $100, which gives you unlimited rides. If you work in Portland, you can also use the HOP Fast Pass system, which lets you transfer between C-Tran and Portland's TriMet buses, Max Light Rail, and streetcars with just one card. This is a great option for commuters who don't want to deal with the hassle of driving and parking downtown. For those who prefer a more eco-friendly or budget-conscious option, Vancouver is becoming increasingly bike and pedestrian friendly. The city has been investing in more bike lanes, shared use paths, and walking trails, making it easier to get around without a car. In fact, neighborhoods like downtown Vancouver, Esther Short, and the waterfront are very walkable, meaning you can live, work, and play all within the same area without needing to drive. If you're an avid cyclist, you'll be happy to know that Vancouver has been working on expanding its bike lane network to make commuting by bike even safer and more convenient. Looking ahead, Vancouver is actively improving its transportation infrastructure. The city is currently working on its third bus rapid transit line, which will run along Highway 99 and connect even more neighborhoods to the transit network. There's also ongoing discussion about extending Portland's light rail system into Vancouver as part of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project, though that's still in the early planning stages. If approved, it could mean faster, more reliable transit options between the two cities. So, what's the bottom line when it comes to transportation costs in Vancouver? If you own a car, expect to budget for gas, insurance, and maintenance, with fuel prices hovering around $4.10 per gallon and insurance averaging $1,200 per year. If you commute into Portland, factor in longer travel times or transit costs if you take C-Tran. And if you prefer public transportation, you can get around Vancouver for $100 per month with a transit pass, making it a cost-effective alternative to driving. Overall, transportation costs in Vancouver are manageable compared to other West Coast cities, but commute times, especially for those crossing into Oregon, can be a major factor in deciding where to live and work. Since we've covered transportation costs, let's move on to another major expense, healthcare. If you're wondering about health insurance, medical costs, and how Vancouver compares to the rest of the country, stick around because we're breaking it all down. Healthcare is one of those things that people often don't think about until they need it, but it's a huge part of the cost of living in any city, and Vancouver is no exception. If you're looking for private health insurance, navigating out-of-pocket costs, or just trying to understand what a doctor's visit might set you back, we're going to go over everything you should expect. If you're purchasing individual health insurance in Washington, You may have already noticed that premiums have increased in 2025. On average, rates have jumped up by 10.7%, which means if you were paying $500 per month in 2024, you're now looking at around $553.50. Some insurance providers have raised their rates even higher, with Regions Blue Shield increasing premiums by nearly 23%, while others like Molina Healthcare have kept increases closer to 5 to 6%. Why are costs going up? It's a mix of higher demand for medical services, increasing prescription drug prices, and the rising costs of delivering healthcare. It's frustrating, but unfortunately, it's something we're seeing across the country. The good news? Many Washington residents qualify for subsidies through Washington Health Plan Finder. In fact, over 70% of people using the marketplace receive financial assistance that helps lower their monthly premiums. For example, if a family of 4 earns around $60,000 per year, they may qualify for tax credits that significantly reduce their monthly costs. If you're shopping for a plan or considering switching coverage, open enrollment runs from November 1st to January 15th, which is the best time to compare your options and see what makes the most sense for you. Of course, monthly premiums aren't the only healthcare expense to consider. Out-of-pocket costs like copays, deductibles, and prescription costs can really add up. A typical doctor's visit in Vancouver runs anywhere from $150 to $200 if you're paying out of pocket, while a specialist visit can cost $250 or more depending on the provider. Urgent care visits usually range between $100 and $150, making them a much cheaper alternative to the emergency room, which can easily cost over $1,000 if you don't have insurance. And if you take prescription medications, prices can vary widely depending on specific plan and coverage. The great news is that Vancouver has excellent healthcare options. The city is home to 2 major hospitals, Peace Health Southwest Medical Center and Legacy Salmon Creek Medical Center, both offering emergency services, specialized care, and surgical procedures. And if you ever need a top-tier specialist or more advanced medical treatment, Portland's world-class hospitals like OHSU and Providence Medical Center are just a short drive away. So how does Vancouver compare to other cities when it comes to healthcare costs? Overall, Washington's healthcare costs are slightly below the national average, but Vancouver sits right in the middle when compared to other cities in the state. It's more affordable than Seattle, where insurance premiums and medical costs are higher, but it's still more expensive than smaller Washington towns. If you're trying to keep your healthcare costs down, there are a few things you can do. If you're eligible, high deductible health plans, HDHPs, paired with a health savings account, HSA, can be a great way to save on taxes while setting aside money for medical expenses. If you need non-emergency care, urgent care clinics are often a much cheaper alternative to ER visits. And if you're self-employed or don't have employer-provided insurance, shopping around and comparing plans during open enrollment can help you find the most affordable option. At the end of the day, healthcare is one of the biggest costs of living anywhere, and Vancouver is no exception. If you're moving here, it's important to budget not just for monthly premiums, but also for out-of-pocket expenses, doctor's visits, and the occasional unexpected medical bill. Let's move on to another major cost, education and childcare. If you have kids or you're thinking about starting a family, you won't want to miss this next section. Education and childcare are some of the biggest expenses for families, and if you're planning to raise kids in Vancouver, Washington, it's important to understand how much you can expect to spend. If you need daycare, preschool, or you're just considering public or private schools, the cost can add up quickly, and planning ahead can make a huge difference in your budget. Let's start with childcare, since it's often one of the biggest financial burdens for parents. As of 2025, the average cost of infant childcare in Vancouver is around $21.33 per hour, which translates to about $853 per week for a standard 40-hour work week, or roughly $2,773 per month for full-time care. Center-based childcare is even more expensive, with annual costs averaging around $20,370 for infants and $15,720 for a 4-year-old. These prices put Washington among the top 10 most expensive states for childcare, making it one of the biggest costs to factor into your budget if you have young kids. For preschool and daycare, tuition costs vary depending on the type of program you choose. Jack and Jill Health's daycare is one of the more affordable options, charging a one-time $50 registration fee with monthly tuition rates of $800 for 5 full days of preschool or $400 for 5 half days. Private preschools and religious-based programs like Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Schools offer K-8 education with tuition set at $8,300 annually, which can be broken down into 11 monthly payments of about $755. Some private schools in Vancouver offer tuition assistance programs, but costs can still be high, especially for families with multiple children enrolled. If you're planning for public education, the Vancouver Public Schools VPS district serves most of the city. However, like many districts for families with older kids thinking about college, Vancouver has several higher education options, including Clark College and Washington State University, Vancouver. WSU Vancouver is a popular choice for students who want to stay close to home while earning a four-year degree, but tuition costs are rising. For the 2024-2025 school year, WSU increased tuition by 3%, which means in-state undergraduate students are paying about $373 more per year, while graduate students are seeing an increase of about $431 per year. Clark College, a community college that offers two-year degrees and transfer programs, is a more affordable option for students looking to start their education without taking on significant debt. Education and childcare costs in Vancouver are a major consideration for families, whether you're paying for daycare, looking at private school options, or planning for college tuition. While Washington State does have financial aid programs and tax credits available for lower-income families, many parents still find that childcare and tuition costs are some of the biggest expenses they face. If you're moving to Vancouver and have kids, it's important to research the best options for family and budget accordingly. Since we've covered education and childcare, we're going to talk about entertainment and leisure next. If you love hiking, dining out, or taking advantage of the local art scene, we're going to break down what you can expect to spend on fun in the Pacific Northwest. Entertainment and leisure are an important part of any budget, because let's be honest, no one wants to move somewhere just to work and pay bills. Vancouver, Washington has a lot to offer in terms of recreation, dining, nightlife, and cultural events, and the costs for entertainment here are relatively affordable compared to larger West Coast cities like Portland and Seattle. That being said, it's still important to factor these expenses into your monthly budget, especially if you enjoy going out frequently. One of the best things about living in Vancouver is the easy access to outdoor activities, which are often free or come with minimal costs. With so many parks, hiking trails, and scenic areas nearby, it's easy to find things to do without breaking the bank. If you want to explore the Columbia River Gorge, take a weekend trip to Mount St. Helens, or just enjoy a quiet afternoon at one of Vancouver's many waterfront parks, you don't need to spend much to have a great time. If you prefer gym workouts over outdoor adventures, you'll need to budget for a fitness membership. The cost of gym memberships in Vancouver vary widely depending on the facility. As of 2025, the average monthly cost for a gym membership is about $107.50, but you can find basic fitness centers starting at $50 per month, while high-end gyms and clubs with amenities like pools, saunas, and personal training sessions can go up to $200 per month. Many gyms also offer family or couples discounts, and city-run fitness programs are often a more budget-friendly option. The Vancouver Parks and Recreations Department offers affordable community programs, and while some of their fees increased in 2025 to help offset rising operational costs, they still provide some of the best value for fitness and recreation in the city. If you enjoy movies, concerts, or live theater, you may notice that entertainment costs have crept up in Vancouver over the last year. In late 2024, the city proposed new taxes on movie tickets and event parking as part of an effort to close a budget gap, which means you might pay slightly more to go to the movies or attend events at places like Higgins Theater or the Clark County Fairgrounds. Even so, tickets for most movie theaters in Vancouver are still cheaper than Portland, and live music and theater performances in the area tend to be more affordable compared to the big city venues. Miscellaneous expenses and personal care costs are often overlooked when people budget for a new city, but they can add up quickly and can make a real difference in your overall cost of living. These include things like haircuts, self-care treatments, pet expenses, streaming subscriptions, and unique costs that come up throughout the year. Vancouver, Washington falls somewhere in the middle when it comes to these everyday expenses, cheaper than cities like Seattle or Portland, but still more expensive than small town living. Let's start with personal care. If you're getting regular haircuts, expect to pay around $40 to $60 for a standard men's cut and between $80 and $150 for a women's haircut at a mid-range salon. Prices go up significantly if you're getting color treatments, balayage, or other specialty services, which can cost anywhere from $150 to $300 plus, depending on the salon. Barbershops tend to be slightly more affordable, with basic cuts usually ranging between $30 and $50. For those who regularly get manicures and pedicures, a basic manicure in Vancouver costs about $25 to $40, while a gel manicure or dip powder set can range from $40 to $70. Pedicures typically start at $40 and can go up to $80+ for spa treatments or specialty services. Waxing, lash extensions, and facials are also popular self-care services, with prices generally in line with Portland metro area, meaning you'll pay about $15 to $25 for eyebrow waxing, $60 to $100 for full lash extensions, and $75 to $150 for a professional facial. Earlier we talked about standard gym memberships, but if you're into boutique fitness studios like yoga, Pilates, or CrossFit, you'll be paying a premium. These specialized classes usually run between $100 and $180 per month, depending on the studio and how often you attend. If you're looking for something more budget-friendly, Vancouver has several community recreation centers that offer fitness classes and facilities at a lower cost than private gyms. Pet owners should also budget for pet-related expenses, which can vary depending on the type of pet you have. Dog grooming services in Vancouver range from $50 to $100 per section, depending on the breed and coat length. Veterinary costs are also important to consider. An annual vet visit for a dog or cat typically costs around $60 to $100, while vaccinations, flea treatments, and emergency visits can add up significantly to your yearly expenses. Dog boarding services usually charge $40 to $70 per night, and dog walking services can range from $20 to $35 per walk, depending on the provider. Everyday miscellaneous expenses can also include subscriptions and memberships that people forget to factor into their budget. Streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus cost $10 to $20 per month each, while subscriptions like Amazon Prime, Spotify, or Apple Music add another $10 to $15 per month. If you subscribe to multiple services, these costs easily add up to $50 to $100 per month without even realizing it. Many people also have monthly memberships for meal kit services, coffee subscriptions, or personal networking platforms, all of which can contribute to their monthly expenses. Lastly, unexpected costs are just a part of life, and it's always smart to have a cushion for things like car repairs, home maintenance, or surprise bills that pop up. If you own a home, setting aside $100 to $200 per month for maintenance and repairs can help cover routine expenses like plumbing issues, appliance breakdowns, or landscaping needs. If you rent, unexpected costs might include security deposits, pet fees, or increases in renter's insurance. While these costs may seem small individually, they can have a big impact on your budget when added together. The key to managing personal care and miscellaneous expenses is prioritizing what's important to you and budget accordingly. Some people are willing to splurge on self-care and fitness, while others prefer to keep these costs minimal and put their money elsewhere. At the end of the day, Vancouver is a flexible city where you can live comfortably on a range of budgets, depending on your lifestyle choices. That brings us to the final question. Is Vancouver, Washington actually affordable? We've gone through all the major expenses, from housing and utilities to healthcare and entertainment, so now it's time to put everything together and see what the cost of living looks like in 2025. Let's break it all down and figure out if Vancouver is the right financial fit for you.